Hello everybody and welcome to Chess Match, Learn Chess with the Rochester Chess Center. I am guest instructor David Petty, and with me today are two brothers, David and Daniel Villani. And they've been playing chess for about 1 year. Today we're going to see a chess match between these two new players. So are you guys ready? Let's have a big smile, shake hands, and you may hit your brother's clock. All right, so notice that they both open with their center pawns, and out comes the bishop aiming for the weakest square. But there's going to be no scholar's mate today because this important knight move stops any queen nonsense. Okay, so both players so far are developing their pieces. Notice that they've only made one pawn move so far. Okay, scratch that. Now there's two pawn moves. But in general, you only need one or two pawn moves at the beginning of the game to get out all your pieces. So here, we're seeing something. A yummy rookie has been eaten. We're seeing something over here on the left side of the board that happens in a lot of beginner chess. The rook is the easiest piece to use, and a lot of newer players want to move their rook pawn and bring their rook out quickly. But the more experienced you get, the more you realize that it's better to save your rooks for later in the game. And we saw exactly why. The bishop took the rook, and of course, rooks are worth 5 points, and bishops are only worth 3. So it was a good trade for black. And don't forget to hit your clock, David. All right, so both players having developed their pieces, Daniel was considering taking that pawn over there, but he realized it was defended by the king, and he wisely reconsidered. So now we have an equal trade. In chess, it's important to know the values of the pieces, and bishops and knights are both worth 3 points. So that was an equal trade. And overall, black is still slightly ahead in material because he's got a rook versus a knight. But it's only a small advantage for black in terms of material at this point. So Daniel is realizing that he doesn't really have a very safe place to put his knight, but he touched it, so he did move it. And really, what both sides should be doing is completing their development. That means bringing out all your pieces. Don't forget about those bishops and knights that haven't moved yet. And it's another trade, an equal trade, knight for knight. But this trade favors black, even though it's an even trade, because right now black is ahead by an entire rook. And when you're ahead in material, trades are good for you. Because imagine that you trade off all the pieces, you'll just be left with the one piece extra that you have, and that one piece will be able to clean up. Ooh, the queen comes out and says check to the king, and now David has to decide how he's going to escape from check. Will he run? Will he block? What will he do? David decides to run, and very good move by Daniel. He brings out his bishop, aiming down the board on the long diagonal, and David also makes a good move, releasing his bishop with this central pawn thrust. Okay. So now it's just a matter of bringing the rooks into the game, and you'll notice that neither player has castled this game, even though in general it's good to castle in the first 10 moves. It's probably been 20 or 25 moves, and neither player has castled. This is something that you want to get in the habit of doing, is castling quickly, because it gets your king to safety. Now you see poor David's king over here is blocking in the rook in the corner. It won't be able to get into the game for a while because David never castled. Did you make a move? Yes, okay. So both players, another check. Both players moving their bishops around, but they're sort of neglecting their rooks. And you do want to eventually get your rooks into the game. You remember I said early that rooks are patient pieces. They like to come into the game last. Now is that time. And we have a very close situation in terms of time. Speaking of time, they've both used half of their time. It's 2 minutes and 41 seconds to 2 minutes and 41 seconds. So things are going very evenly. All right. David brings out his queen. And we have a check. It's almost checkmate, but there's one way out. Can you figure out what it is, dear viewer and dear Daniel? You got to go through the options. Can you capture the checking piece? Can you block it? And can you run? It's got to be a block. Okay. And now David has the option to trade queens, and he has to decide if he wants to do that. Another check. Once again, the king can't run, and so the only option is to block. All right, so black decides not to trade queens. Interestingly enough, if the queen had come down here, they could have had what's called a perpetual check, going back and forth with the queen blocking back and forth, and that would have turned into a draw. But black should really be trying to win here because he's up an entire rook. Keep going. So David thought that was a fork attacking the king and the rook, but the queen defended both of them for white. Both players are starting to run a little bit low on time, but they both have more than a minute left. And whoops, it looks like black dropped a queen. But all is not lost because black was already up a rook, so now white's ahead on material by a queen for a rook. And black really does need to get those rooks into the game. They haven't moved from their starting positions all game long. And you need to be using all of your pieces if you want to win the game. All right. Now, one thing that you might be noticing, viewer, is that sometimes they're letting go of the pieces and they're not leaving the piece on that square. Normally, when you play tournament chess, it's called touch move, and when you let go of a piece, it has to stay there. But if you're playing a speed chess game like this with 5 minutes, you can sometimes play what's called clock move, where it's your move when you've hit the clock. Okay, the queen comes in, and things are looking grim for black. Okay, the rook saves itself. And the queen moves even further, cutting off the king's escape on the 7th rank. So the queen is kind of moving back and forth, trying to find a way in. And we're getting very low on time for both players. All right, the final piece comes into play. Oh, that's not your pawn. And this is what's called time trouble. It happens to every chess player sooner or later. You get down to the end of the game and you just don't have enough time. And both brothers are in that situation right now. So if you want, you can call the flag. Pause. Okay, so if your opponent runs out of time, then all you have to do is call it, and that means that they lose on time. But what's going on in this position? Let's just pause and look at it. We had a lot of kind of flurrying about. One thing I wanted to point out was that before this rook moved over here, white actually had the opportunity to capture this rook. Do you see this bishop all the way over here, guys? It's actually helping support the queen, and this would be a big blow for white, because after the king runs, you get the bishop too. And you get everything, and then the king's on the run, and these pieces should be able to checkmate.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can play check, but it's true, but two pieces are two pieces, right? I mean, I'm not saying that the game is over, I'm just saying that's a way to win a bunch of material. There was also an opportunity here to make a checkmate. I don't remember the exact position, but it was something like this. Now, can you guys see a checkmate in this position for white? It's got to do with the bishop and the queen again. Ah, there you go. Do you see that, Daniel? This would have been a way to finish the game. The bishop that I think you forgot about was actually attacking all these dark squares, and this would have been a really good way to end the game. Okay, so let's pause, guys, and shake hands, say good game. All right, now for the tip of the day taken from the game that we just saw. At the beginning of the game, after black played bishop c5, so far it's been a perfect opening. Both sides have played a pawn in the center and developed their pieces, and here white made a little mistake when he tried to bring his rook out too early. Usually, you don't want to bring your rooks out like this, and we saw exactly why. When the rook jumps into the game, is that a safe square for the rook? No. The bishop takes it, and white was actually down a little bit of material from the start. And the other tip of the day is that you want to make sure to castle your king early. In this position, all white would have to do to castle is bring the knight out and castle. Black can already do it, and that's what you want to do. So get your king safe, develop your pieces, and save your rooks for last. And that was the tip of the day. Thanks.
Chess Match is sponsored by the Rochester Chess Center, which has been serving the Rochester chess community for over 24 years. Welcome back to Chess Match. We have a game from the last episode that we are going to continue with Webster Kehoe and Connor Wagner. Right now the material is even. The difference seems to be that on the clock, Webster has just over 3 minutes left and Connor has almost 8 minutes left. Okay, let's continue the match. All right, you'll notice they both put their rooks on open files. That means a file that none of their pawns are blocking. Okay, as we trade off more pieces here, we are headed to an endgame. The ideas in the endgame are different than what we've seen before. In this part of the game, the king is now the strongest piece, or one of the strongest pieces always. Okay, and you'll see players start to bring their kings towards the center of the board. if they can, until they figure out where the king belongs. Okay, most players prefer to have the bishop in the ending, but Connor had to trade so he could bring his king closer to the center. If he hadn't traded, there was a possibility of a knight fork, which maybe I can show later. Okay, right now white is trying to advance where he's the strongest. He's got 3 pawns against 2 pawns on this side of the board. So black says, I'll advance where I'm the strongest. Okay, black has now given white those doubled isolated pawns, where it's going to be very difficult for white to protect his G pawns. Right now, the black pieces are tied down to the defense of this poor b6 pawn. Right now, this is 2 times we've seen the same position. If we see it a 3rd time, the game could be declared a draw. That move was played with the idea of keeping the white king out, so the white king cannot get back towards the center of the board. So black has defended his b6 pawn, so his knight can now move in. And the knight has made a fork on the c pawn and the g pawn, or the g4 pawn and c4 pawns. Connor chose to take the healthier pawn because the g4 pawn looks pretty weak. White has pinned the knight in order to protect the b5 pawn. When you get when you have less than 1 minute left on the clocks, you see some pretty strange chess ideas. Black now has a passed pawn on the b file, and he's going to push it as far as he can. Okay, guys, that's probably beyond the pale here. Neither one of you were making much progress at the end, but black ran out of time, so white actually wins, even though he's behind material. It looked like it might have become a drawn position. However, black ran out of time on his clock. He got to the 0 on his clock first, and the Webster called it, and when he said, "You're out of time," that wins the game. It's a lot like checkmate. So white actually won the game, even though he was a pawn behind. Okay, today's tip of the day was that if you get to an endgame where there's very few pieces left on the board, get your king towards the center of the board. The king is one of the strongest pieces left at that point. Stay tuned for a benefit, as well as chess clubs around Rochester. Thank you. I'm Ken McBride, and this has been Chess Match, Learn Chess with the Rochester Chess Center. One of the benefits that we saw from this game was the use of time management. These players had to have time management skills because they both realized they had a limited amount of time, and they came up with an idea, and they pretty much stayed with their ideas.
The benefit of the day is chess helps promote creativity. Creativity in chess is very important because there are billions upon trillions upon quadrillions of chess positions possible. There are more chess positions than atoms in the world. Creativity is very important because every game is different and you have to think about what you're going to do in that certain position. Creativity helps you in all phases of life, whether you're problem solving and you need a unique answer, or whether it's just a simple project in art.
Another benefit of chess is commitment. You need to be committed because after a certain level, you need to be able to study to get better, not just keep on playing, which is also helpful. And you need to have a commitment in life because you can't just, let's say there's a problem at work, you can't just give up on it and say, I don't want to do it. You have to keep on thinking about it and find a way to make it work. The commitment I made is I read a few books and I go over a few games that very high-level players above me so I can see what they do and probably try to get that into my game.
And this has been the chess benefit of the day.
And that's our benefit for the day. And we'll see you next time.
McQuade Chess Team!
I've been playing chess here at McQuade since my 7th grade, so 5 years ago. But I'd always been competing since my elementary years. I'm Luke Solomon.
Would you call yourself an aggressive player or a passive player?
I would call myself more of a passive player,
Defensive?
more defensive.
Yeah.
Arcadia Chess Team! Yay!
SOTA Chess Team!
All City Chess Team! Number 1. Okay. SOTA Chess Team! All City Chess Team!
My name is Karan Branch. This is my first year. Why do I play? Something to do and to have fun.
You like beating people?
Yeah,
Cool.
very competitive.
They say it's a mental game. Do you think it helps with your academics?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think the benefits are?
Yeah, it makes you think a lot more. Critical thinking.
Do you know what you want? Is it the head?
Gates Childline Chess Team!
No, this won't even move anything. I tried. So we'll hold the reset.
No, that's probably well.
Factual here.
Sylvester, remember my wallet last time, the $100 bill?
I'm just scared.
Here they are, bringing the noise.
Harley. Harley Chess Team.
This is the benefit of the day. And
This has been the benefit. Oh.
Was that kind of scary at the end with your clock ticking down? It's kind of scary when you have no time left, right? You don't have time to think about anything. Believe me, I know.
And this
His flagpole. I can take him. I got this. Oh, so his win is on flagpole.
You got it. All you
Oh, I see.